I believe in God, the Father Almighty, the creator of heaven and earth, and in Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord, who was conceived by the Holy Spirit, born of the Virgin Mary, suffered under Pontius Pilate, was crucified, died, and buried, descended into hell. On the third day he rose again from the dead. He ascended into heaven, and is seated at the right hand of God, the Father Almighty. From there he shall come to judge the living and the dead. I believe in the Holy Spirit, the Holy Catholic Church, the communion of saints, the forgiveness of sins, the resurrection of the body, and life everlasting. Amen. Let us see. So today, our topic is marriage as a vocation. Marriage as a vocation. We have been treating the sacrament of marriage for some time now. And there is this popular impression that as a normal human being, it's either you become a priest, or you become a sister, or you get married. So because of that, once you are not the Reverend Father, you are not the Reverend Sister, you have crossed the age of 30, people will keep asking you, when are you going to get married? When are you going to get married? And many people are under pressure to respond to that question. That is why it is important for us to realize that just as a priesthood is a vocation, that is to say, from the Latin word vocare, to be called. You have to be called and be sent. You must be called before you go into that vocation. You cannot just walk up to the bishop and say, it's my turn to be a Reverend Father. No. You must be called. You make the discernment to show that you have been called. You should be able to prove to the bishop that, yes, I believe I have been called, and work towards that calling before you are ordained a priest. Because every vocation has its own responsibility. It has its own obligation. So it is with the married vocation. It requires discernment. Pope Francis in Amoris Laetitia number 72 says that the decision to get married or to go into the married life should be the fruit of discernment. You would have thought about it for you to decide, yes, I want to go into the married life. And when you are called by God, you are sent with a mission. When you are sent and given a mission, it is expected that you realize or be able to determine whether you have the capacity to carry out that mission or not. What is the mission of the married vocation? When God calls you and sends you to the married life, He's asking you to do two things. One is to go and love a man if you are a woman, or to love a woman if you are a man, to the extent of sharing your life with that man or a woman, and then you will be open to bring up children, to bear children and bring them up in the way of the Lord. So, unity of life. That is, you and the man or you and the woman becoming one. That is responsibility number one. Number two is giving birth to children and bringing them up in the way of the Lord. That is responsibility number two. If you have not thought about it, or you have thought about it you do not feel that you have the capacity to do any of these two, or to do the two together, then you cannot say you have been called into the married life. And if you have not been called, do not go. And people say, party where they not invite person. If you break a glass, you go pay. So if you feel you have not been called into the married life, do not go there. It is a vocation. It is not automatic. It is not by default that once you are 30 and you are not a reverend sister, then it's time for me to marry. No. You must make up your mind. Every human being that wants to go into married life must make up his mind. If you have not made up your mind to the extent that you want to love a man, you want to love a woman, to the extent of living with that person, both of you becoming one, and raising children with that person, then you have not been called into the married life. Remember in the book of Genesis, God said, it is not good for the man to be alone. It is not good for the man to be alone. So he made a helpmate. Now God discovered a problem. He discovered a need in man. And because he discovered that need in man, that was why he created the woman to be able to fulfill that need that he discovered in man. That was a vocation given to the woman. And then after creating the woman, he blessed them and said, feed the earth and multiply, be fruitful. That is a mandate, it is a mission given to them. So for everyone to go into the marriage vocation, you must be called, and you must feel that you have that capacity to go and fulfill the responsibilities of that vocation. Of course, many of you may now be wondering, if I'm not a priest, I'm not a reverend sister, and then I don't feel that I have been called, what should I do? That you are not married, you are not a priest, you are not a reverend sister, does not mean that you have failed God. The church recognizes serving God as a single person. Serving God as a single person. It's just that for the priesthood is a sacramental. Sorry, it's a sacrament, for sacrament of ordination. Marriage is a sacrament. Religious life, for those who do religious profession, that is not a sacrament, it's a sacramental. It's not a sacrament. So as a single person, even if you are not a reverend sister, you can dedicate your life to God. People have consecration to God as a single person. That will tell you that it's not that you are going from one man to another and you now say, no, I don't want to get married. That's what I'm talking about. Because you cannot be going from one man to another and you say you don't want to get married when the vocation to the married life requires that you love a man and stay with that man and you bear children. So if you are going from one man to another and say, I want to remain single, that is not the vocation I'm talking about. I'm talking about you want to be faithful to God, you want to remain single and serve the Lord as an individual, as a single person. It is allowed. You have not failed God. So that parents and brothers and sisters, we understand it and stop pressurizing boys and girls. And stop asking the question, when are you going to ask? As long as you don't ask them, when are you going to become a priest? You stop asking, when are you going to get married? When are you going to... You can encourage them, you can counsel them. But it should not be pressure to the extent that when they don't get married, it looks as if the person has failed. It is not automatic. That is why during the marriage ceremony itself, you are made to declare that intention. It's not even the church cannot even presume it that because the boy has come in suit, the girl has come in wedding gown, therefore they have come here to marry. No, the church does not even presume it. You are made to declare it. That is why during the marriage ceremony you are asked, have you come here freely and without reservation to give yourselves to each other in marriage? You will not say, I have. Are you ready to accept children lovingly from God and to bring them up in the way of Christ and His church? You will not say, I am. Those are the two responsibilities. So the church does not even presume it. You have to be conscious of it, that you are ready to assume the responsibility of the married life. So marriage as a sacrament is a vocation, and part of that vocation requires that within that marriage institution, the grace of Christ is made to bear on those who embrace the marriage vocation. Through the man, the woman receives grace. Through the woman, the man receives. That is why it's a sacrament, an outward sign of inward grace, ordained by Jesus Christ, by which grace is given to our soul. Therefore, if you are alone, the responsibility to salvation is on your soul as an individual. But once you are married, you are not just going to be accountable as an individual. You are also going to be accountable for the soul of your wife, for the soul of your husband, as the case may be, and more importantly, the souls of your children. It is a responsibility. Just as I have the responsibility to account for the flock that God has given to me as a priest. My father will not be accounting for those in his parish. My brother will not be accounting for those in his parish. The catechist, catechist will still account though, but his own accountability will be different from my own. But the fact that I have decided, I've made up my mind to embrace that vocation to the priesthood means that I made consciously, that is called, what Pope Francis said, is a decision made out of process of discernment. You would have known the responsibility. There should be no ignorance. You should have known what is involved. So it is with the married life. So you cannot enter and say, now I've entered, and you say the man is disturbing me, the woman is disturbing me, the children are giving me headache. That is your responsibility. That is the vocation. That is what you are called to go and do. So it is something that you must consciously, as an individual, agree to do before you go into the married life. Now, how do you know that you have been called? Just as we have the case to the priesthood, we ask, how do you know that you have been called? Most persons don't hear the voice of God, as we have in the case of Samuel. But there are indications to show that you have been called, both from your own side internally and those who are observing you. There are indicators, there are symptoms of the call. So it is in the case of married life. How will a girl now know that, okay, I have been called to go into the married life? How will a boy know that I have been called to go into the married life? Again, the two responsibilities. The first one is love. The moment you feel that you are beginning to fall in love with somebody, and not with somebody, if you are a man with a woman, if you're a woman with a man. Let me be clear. So, the moment you begin to fall in love with a complementary sex, to the extent that you feel the love is strong enough for you to now share your life with the person, it means that God is calling you to a married life. That is an indication. Just as you have the case for the priesthood, when you have that calling, that discernment also means that you screen the calling. It means that you put that call also to the test. So it is when you be called to the married life. You put it to the test. Now this person that I feel that I am loving, does the person love me? If yes, are we compatible? Because it's not about love. We are not going to love each other from afar. You are going to require the unity of life. You are going to stay together. Can we stay together? Are we compatible? If we are compatible, is this person free to be in unity with me? Since it is one man, one woman, is the person already tied to another person to the extent that I will no longer be free to be united? The person cannot be united with two at the same time. So these are the ways you screen that supposed call and discern the marriage vocation. And it should not be instantaneous, it should not be automatic. That you just love the person and then I like the person, I like you just get married. No, that is why you must know the person, you must understand the person. Because there are so many things that must be considered before you go into that marriage vocation. If you get married because it is time, or you get married because my father said, or you get married because the person proposed to you, then when you get in there, you may discover that the responsibilities will overwhelm you. That is why when you feel called, and I said that calling may not come like a voice, like an audible voice, but it comes through indications, through symptoms, and you have to put those indications to the test. It takes some time. And that is the period of courtship. That is when you put that feeling, you put that call to the test. You screen it. And if after screening it you feel, no, I cannot, just as when you enter the seminary. If I enter the seminary after first year, second year, I now tell the bishop, I've looked at it, oh, I cannot do this work. He cannot come and arrest me now. He cannot tell me to pay back the money they use in feeding me from year 1 to year 3 in the seminary. No. I have checked it and I don't want to be a priest. The same way, the bishop can say, okay, you feel called, you have entered the seminary, no problem, but we have checked it. You will not be happy as a priest. You will not be able to do the work. You don't have the capacity to do this work. I cannot take the bishop to court that why did you waste my 3 years? Because both sides have the right to screening of the vocation, of the call, of the impulse. So it is with married life. Both the man and the woman, during that courtship is period of discernment. It's the time you do the screening, you put it to the test. You cannot be testing something that you don't have the freedom to decide the result. You should be able to say, if there is no freedom to decide whether you are going to go ahead or not, then there will be no need for any form of testing or any form of courtship. That is why your testing should not be irredeemable testing. You know what I mean by that? Irredeemable testing. What I mean is, if you are carrying out experimentation and you use something as a sample, those of you who did science, there are some, if you are to do biology practical, and you are asked to bring a live rabbit, and that live rabbit, what they want you to check is how to identify the kidney in the rabbit. And to identify the kidney means that you open up the rabbit and identify the kidney for you to pass the exam. After the exam, will the rabbit still be alive? No. That is irredeemable test. So, during courtship, bearing in mind that you are just screening, and screening can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 before you decide. You may screen and screen even 20 and say, hey, I've tried. I don't want to get married. Just as I can go to seminary in or through Adams of University, from there I leave. I go to religious, I go to Jesuit novitiate. After 2 years, I don't like their way of life. Let me go to Augustine. Augustine, they wake up at 4 a.m. I don't like that. I go to Redemptorists. No, they tie rosary around their waist. I don't like stress. I can do all that and come and say, I beg, I want to get married. I'm tired of it. That is it. So it is with marriage. That's why when the church says, during courtship, bear in mind that it must not necessarily lead to marriage. So when you come and say, he dated me for 10 years, and you that experimented for 10 years, did you know that you are going to take decision? So it's a vocation. Discernment. You have to decide. And that decision is based on your knowledge of the responsibility of the marriage vocation. Once you have known the responsibility and you feel that you cannot cope, either generally or particular with the person, you are free to say no. Either I don't want to be, I can't share bed with anybody. I like my sleep. I can't share bed with anybody. That means you cannot get married now. You cannot be married with somebody and say you cannot share bed. That once somebody is lying on the same bed with me, I cannot sleep. Then don't get married, because it's an essential part. That unity is an essential part of marriage. It can be with a particular person. This person snores too much. I can't go. You rest. So that's what I'm saying. That it can be general. It can be general. It can be general, and it can be particular. A woman can say, I don't want to go through the experience and the stress of childbearing. Good. That means you are not ready to assume the responsibility of the marriage vocation. Leave it like that. So, marriage as a vocation requires that you realize that you have been called. And that calling demands that you have the necessary knowledge to answer. And between when you feel called and when you give that definite answer, there is always a period of discernment. That discernment requires that you have the full knowledge of what is required. So, as a vocation, for those who have gotten into marriage, know that the institution you have gotten into has its responsibilities. It is designed by God. It's a divine institution. It means that you are not going to carry out the activities of that institution in your own way. Just as a priest, I cannot come now and begin with our Father and end with Lord have mercy. No. It is an institution, and I have to exercise that ministry according to how God wants me to, the church wants me to exercise it. So it is with the marriage. They ask you, are you ready to bring the child up according to the laws of God and His church? And you say, yes, I am. So for those who have gone into that marriage, you should know that it's not according to your terms. You have been called and sent to go and do something. So do it according to the mind of the one who sent you. And who is that person? God. For the young ones who are yet to get into marriage, don't get into marriage unless you have decided, freely decided to get into marriage. Thank you for listening.